All we need is like food, water, and shelter, right?
Right.
But if you're thinking about things that should be important in your life,
Right.
capturing those moments, I see videos and photos of my kids
Yeah.
that I forgot that happened.
Yeah.
I forgot they looked that way.
Right.
I forgot, they've been big so long. I forgot what they were like when they were little. I never get to have that back except for the photo.
Yeah.
And so I think that people undervalue what it's going to mean to you later in your life. Today, we've got a little bit of a tearjerker. We are talking to the founder of Love Not Lost, Ashley Jones. Do you want to decommoditize your products and services? Do you want to become a destination brand, increase your revenue, and have more control over your pricing? Well, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll talk about how to create great customer experiences and how to orient your company to enable them. I'm your host, Devin Smith, and this is the Experience Leader Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Experience Leader. Today, we've got a little bit of a tearjerker. We are talking to the founder of Love Not Lost, Ashley Jones, and she is going to be telling us about her story, how she started Love Not Lost, which is a nonprofit that provides portrait and photo services to families that have a member who is terminally ill. You may be thinking, what on earth does this have to do with customer experience? But I can tell you, once you hear about the way she treats the folks who are coming to her for services and the way she treats her photographers, you'll totally get why she lines up with my 5 forces of customer experience and why she deserves to be on this show. Here's Ashley Jones. All right. So, folks, I'm here with Ashley Jones. Ashley is the founder of Love Not Lost, and Love Not Lost is a nonprofit that actually takes it offers photos and portrait services to families who have a member who is terminally ill. And Ashley just about made me cry today with her talk. Ashley, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is great.
Tell folks a little bit about your story. I think that it's important for people to know the background. And just to give you guys kind of a heads up, Ashley may not come from a professional CX background, but she is a CX person, and you will understand that in a second.
Thank you. So my husband and I had a daughter, surprise pregnancy. And when we had her, we were 25 years old. So we were like, all right, we're going to be young parents. We'll, make the most of it. And our daughter, Skylar, was born. Mm-hmm. We were sent home healthy, go enjoy your family. And then at 1 month old, we noticed something wasn't quite right. And then at 2 months old, we got the worst news a parent could ever get, which is your daughter has a terminal diagnosis. And the terminal diagnosis was spinal muscular atrophy. So it's really similar to ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. Muscles degenerate and there's no cure. And so basically we were lost in grief and the anticipatory grief, and trying to figure out what we were going to do and what is this new reality that we're in, And so we had a lot of friends disappear just because at such a young age, like we were the first of all of our friends to have a child. We were certainly the first of all our friends to lose a child. So no one knew what to do with us. And I don't blame them, right? Like it's hard. We're not taught how to grieve or how to help other people grieve. And so, it was really hard. But we had some friends who did show up to love us well and family members to support us. And that really made the difference. So we had actually one of those friends gift us a professional portrait session with our daughter. And those photos were so special. And they meant a lot in the moment, but it wasn't until she died at 21 months old that I recognized the true depth of a gift that they were, and really a tool, because those photos really gave me a way to be with my grief and feel the feelings, right? To ugly cry and mourn and wail and, just have snot pouring on my face and be like, like, life is hard. I hate this. Why, why? But I also knew that, everyone suffers. So why me is not a helpful question, right? So it's like, what next? And so it was like, all right, like, I'm just going to stay present because, like, I don't want to check out and then have to deal with it later, right? Like, if I'm going to have to deal with pain, let's just deal with it. Give me all of it, and let's get over it,
Wow.
And so, and I didn't realize at the time there's no getting over it, right? But grief doesn't always have to hurt so bad, right? So as you feel the feelings and process the emotions, you can integrate them into your body. And over time, your body like naturally knows how to heal. And so that's what I intuitively was doing by being present with the photos throughout that first year of raw grief, was just feeling, and my body was feeling it and processing. And so I realized that feeling is healing. And if, it helped me so much, maybe I could help other people. And I was a photographer myself, so I started volunteering portrait sessions to people facing a terminal diagnosis. I did that for a bunch of years, and then my husband was like, I love you, but you gotta stop. He was like, you are giving it all away. You're giving away prints and albums and artwork, and like, we can't afford it. Like, we are not rich, and we have our own aftermath of medical bills and funeral expenses and all of that. So I was like, I hear you, but also I know the reality of those medical bills and funeral expenses, and so I'm not charging these families a penny, right? But I'll figure out a way. Yeah. And so that's what led me to start Love Not Lost. And the mission is to help people heal in grief. And so photography is one of the ways we do that. We have support tools, we have other grief resources, and an online community that we're building to help people.
Wow, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. I just that something beautiful was born out of grief. Your reaction was to try to help other people to process that grief. That's just so amazing. And I think, I'm also a person of faith, and I think that everything that we go through in life has a reason behind it. Yeah. And pain that we experience has the opportunity to not just build strength in us, but to build compassion for other people who are going through that pain. And I love that you responded to that. Yeah. I think it's amazing. And hearing some of the stories, today about what you're doing in Love Not Lost, that it's a nonprofit, but you're still doing things that we would encourage a company to do in order to get customer loyalty.
Yes.
You're loving on people.
Yes.
In various ways. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about some of the things that you do to walk somebody through the process of actually getting photos and actually having that photo session with one of your photographers.
Sure. Yeah. So the driving question of Love Not Lost is, how can we love people better? Because through my own personal experience, I realized that love was really what brought healing, and it was love for me, love for my family, and the photography was another way to give love and capture love. And so so at first it was just me like listening to people, who's facing a terminal diagnosis, like, let me take your pictures. These really help me. Maybe they'll help you. And with every single session that I photographed, the families would come back and just share the most amazing stories of impact, right? So the first family I photographed, there was a mom who had lost her baby like days after he was born. He came out not breathing. They tried to save him. They couldn't save him. And I photographed him at the hospital. And a few weeks later was Mother's Day. And she said, these photos validate me as a mom.
Wow.
because like my baby's not here to hold, and I have no proof that he existed except for these photos, you know?
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God.
So
that's
2 years later, what's really cool is she had a healthy baby girl. And so I was like, please let me photograph your newborn session, because if it were the same situation as your firstborn, we would obviously do this for free. So let me do it as a gift to celebrate, you know?
Wow.
And we can get some of the same poses. And if you want side-by-side photos, you know, it'd be great. And during the session, we were putting her daughter, Greta, in a position that we had done with her firstborn son, and she just kind of stopped and looked at me and was like, I don't know if you realize this, but the photos you took of our son are the only way that Greta's going to get to know her big brother.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I was like, wow, like I hadn't thought of that, but you're absolutely right. Like, that's amazing. And what a beautiful connection for a sibling who never got to meet their sibling, you know?
Yes.
So then I photographed the family that you saw earlier today, the Hill family in front of the Hope Letters. And the dad died of cancer. And I gave them a book of all the sessions that we had done throughout. I had followed his journey with 4 sessions. And I gave them a highlight album. And afterwards, the mom called me like 3 months later and was just like, hey, I want to tell you how much these photos mean to our family. And I'm thinking she's going to be like, oh, they helped me so much because my husband's gone, you know, like from her perspective.
Right.
And she's like, no, my little girl, when someone new comes to the house, she takes them by the hand, walks them into the living room, and introduces them to her daddy.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That is amazing.
And so these photos like really matter, right? Because they're helping people stay connected to their loved ones, and they're helping people continue the relationship, because love never goes away. It's just transformed. Right. And so it's helping people transform their relationship. So it's really powerful. And so that was kind of like getting started. We've gone through a couple iterations. I won't go through all those details because they're not relevant anymore. But now what's really cool is we've been really working to develop a system, like an online system that can scale, because we really have a vision to go to a national level and then global. Yeah. And so we've been trying to figure out all these little puzzle pieces, and I believe, have found what's going to work. So it's really exciting. We've been testing it, and it seems like it's going to work. So we're like pressing the accelerator. This is the year for scaling. And it's a platform. So what happens is someone, if a family wants a session, they join our online platform. It's called the Love Well. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that, you know, at any given point, you could be on the giving end or the receiving end of the Love Well, and it's like a well of love. So you imagine like a bucket just going down and pulling up love. And so when someone joins the Love Well, they get a free profile. And the profile has 3 self-assessment tools, DISC assessment, Enneagram, and 16 personalities. So that's like free tools that people can use to like discover themselves better, because loving people, you know, loving yourself, you have to start there first. And then, so that's optional. But when they create the profile, they fill out an application that just says, hey, this is our family member, this is what they're going through, or I am the family member, I need a portrait session for my family. And then our community leader, John, will take that application and turn it into an opportunity. Now we have trained certified photographers with Love Not Lost who volunteer their time to do these sessions. Yeah. And so they have special permission access on our platform to see all the opportunities that are available.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we do a 2-day intensive training with our photographers to do, you know, the grief, like how to love yourself, how to take care of yourself, how to, you know, not take someone's pain home with you, and what to do if you do that, and all of that. So how to create safe spaces, how to, you know, be trauma informed essentially. And so, so once they're approved as a photographer and have been completely trained, they get the special permission access. And so they can literally go in at any time of day and just see what families are waiting. And there's a whole map, and we have families all across the country. And so right now our biggest focus is recruiting photographers across the country so that we can meet all the needs. Wow.
That's this hits close to home, because my sister's a professional photographer, and I could totally see could totally see her, doing something like this. It's just, when I see the photos that she took of our kids, right? I think that I never get that moment back again, but I can hold on to it with this photo. And she's always talking about how, and you mentioned this earlier, how people will say, "Oh, this is a nice to have. It's not a necessity." And I mean, if we're talking about extremes, then okay, all we need is like food, water, and shelter, right? Right. But if you're thinking about things that should be important in your life, right? Capturing those moments. I see videos and photos of my kids. Yeah. Sometimes that I forgot that happened. Yeah. I forgot they looked that way. Right? I forgot, they've been big so long. I forgot what they were like when they were little. And I never get to have that back except for the photo. Yeah. And so I think that people undervalue what it's going to mean to you later in your life. Future you is going to thank past you for spending the money on good photos.
I love that you say that because I talk about future me and past me all the time. I've never heard anyone else do that. And I'm like, yes. That's amazing.
Yeah, future Devin gets mad at past Devin all the time for things.
Future Ashley is beginning to thank past Ashley a lot more because I'm trying to practice self-care.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So one thing on that's interesting I wanted to highlight is, so it wasn't always that way. And I mentioned we had been through a few iterations. And part of this goes back to the customer experience, right? So photographers are one of our customers, right? Because they're part of our organization and we love and value them. Families are another customer. Donors are another customer. Board members, it's like we have a lot of different facets and people that we're caring for and loving and serving. And so with photographers, we used to call them. So we had an email blast that we would send out like, hey, we have a session, we need someone to respond. Certainly if it's urgent, we need someone like by the weekend or whatever. Then we would like call and text people to try and fill it. And what I realized, and by talking to people and hearing other people's experiences in different organizations, saying no is really hard. Yeah. Saying no when you're a helper, and typically someone who's volunteering, is even harder. Saying no as a volunteer and a helper when someone's dying is near impossible, right? Yeah. Right, because you're like, if I say no, they're not going to get served. And
it would be so hard for me to say no.
It's so horrible.
My wife, if I were a photographer, she would be so worried that I'd sign up for this because I'd basically be answering like, I'll be there.
Right. And so that's one of the things we teach in our training is like how to set healthy boundaries, right? Because you can't just sacrifice yourself for the sake of others. Yeah. That's not healthy, and you're not serving anyone by doing that, right? And so we always say, like, if we as an organization have people who sacrifice themselves for the sake of others, it's not successful. And it's not a win. Like, we want to create an organization in which all of the people involved are all healthy and all helping each other and all supporting each other, and no one sacrificing themselves to do so. And so what I realized is like, wow, we have a lot of people saying no, but they feel terrible saying no. And that sucks as an experience, right? Yeah. You don't ever want to feel horrible after you hang up the phone with an organization that you're trying to help. Yeah. And so I was like, we needed to find another way. And so with what's so beautiful about this platform, like I mentioned, is that like a photographer can go in at any time, read about the situation, and determine if it's something that they have the capacity to do. And then they don't have to say yes or no. If they want to claim it, it's literally like a button that says claim a session. And if they don't, they just leave it open for someone else to claim. Yeah. And then they know they can check back in a week. If it's not claimed, maybe they consider it a little bit more. But like, there's no urgency and there's no saying no. And that was an experience that we wanted to like transform.
Wow. I mean, like, I think there's a time and a place for self-sacrifice, and but it's who are we doing it for? A lot of times when I know me personally, when I fail to say no when I should say no,
Yeah.
what I'm really doing is I'm sacrificing my family.
Yes.
I'm not really sacrificing me because I'm saving my own emotions and
Yep.
I'm hurting my family.
Yes.
And my first priority has to be to my family. And I realize that, there's a time and a place for it. And when that time and place comes, your family will understand.
Yes.
But that time and place is not every week.
Right. Correct. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
That is that I know that had to be a really intense thing for a lot of folks. Did you see churn, among photographers, because they were having to say no and they were experiencing they felt terrible after having to say no?
We didn't see churn so much as you could just feel it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it wasn't a positive experience.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't have the proof because I didn't ask this question, but I felt like when people would see our number calling, it would be like, oh no, I'm going to get asked.
I can tell you that your intuition is probably spot on.
Yeah.
I tend to be a bit of an empath myself.
Yes.
And what you're describing, I was putting myself in that photographer's shoes as you were describing it, and I would feel absolutely terrible about saying no. I would feel horrible.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah, so I was like, we're just going to remove this and find another way. And I went through so many platforms and demos. Oh, my God. The demos.
Wow.
Wasting my life away.
Oh, my gosh.
We finally found a platform. Well, so we have a platform that allows us to do it. We had originally tried to get HubSpot because they do the customization, and we thought we could do it through that. The sales guy assured me we could do it through that, of course. We paid, $4,000 for the customization, and that didn't work. That was a hard pill to swallow. And as
HubSpot,
a nonprofit,
I love you, but
I know that was rough. That was rough. And so it was not a fun experience, and we were just devastated because then it brought us back to ground zero. It's just all right, back to the demos.
Right.
And so anyway, we found a platform, and there are a bunch of volunteer CRMs out there that I wasn't aware of when we were searching for HubSpot. So that was helpful. But a friend recommended a platform, and we have it set up. So if you want to experience it, go to our website, click the banner at the top, and join the Love Well.
Cool.
And you'll get to see the platform in action because that's what it's on. It's this community platform, and that's why we went with this particular platform, because it has the volunteer CRM capability, but it also has the community element, and that's what every other volunteer CRM was missing. It was we want to we have the people we're serving and the people who are volunteering in this CRM. Why don't we have any connections, right?
Yeah.
Every other volunteer CRM, I was in the demos, why do we not have the ability to message people and connect people and you guys have all the information, right? I was just
So what's the name of the platform that you all went with?
It's called Impact App.
Impact.
Yeah, it's a newer platform developed by a guy here in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
A team here in Georgia, yep. And it's just really awesome. So check it out. Tell him Love Not Lost sent you if you end up going to Impact App, because he's a really great guy, Dwayne. So
very cool.
And so he's built a team underneath him now and is coming out with new developments and stuff. So it's really exciting. But it's great. And not only does it allow us to have the CRM functionality of matching the volunteers and the families, the photographers, but also with the community aspect, kind of what we were talking about before of the silos.
Right.
So we have a story tab, so you can customize it to a degree. There's some significant limitations still, but you can customize it to a degree. And one of the things that we've customized is adding a stories tab for families to share their stories, or we'll do story prompts every quarter for people to share like anyone in our community can share our story prompt. And and so it's like, it's really awesome because before, in the nonprofit world, like your executive director is kind of like the gatekeeper of all the information, right?
Yep.
So it's like, I'm talking to the board, I'm talking to the staff, I'm kind of like reporting what's going on in the organization, but like everything comes through me. And so luckily I'm a really ethical person, and I like hate breaking rules, and I like get anxiety if I'm even close to breaking a rule. But I'm like, like had a strict mom, like you do not, cross her. And so it was like, I never broke rules. But with me being the gatekeeper or any executive director, like you're relying on their integrity to be truthful and authentic and sharing the information. But even in the best case, like for me, even it's like, I'm not falsifying any information, but I'm still sharing it from my perspective. And there's a significant bias and perspective limitation when you're just hearing it from me.
Right.
And so it's like, how can we take down these walls and start, having a permeable, connective, communication system for families to talk to donors and to talk to board members and to, like, so everyone's on this community platform. So like, everyone's on it. So you can, log in and see the stories at any given time. You can message people directly. So it's like everyone has an open communication with our entire organization.
Wow. Now that's brave too.
Yeah.
Because I can see how that could also potentially create drama.
Right.
But I mean, have you experienced any drama?
No, not yet.
Wow.
But we're new, right? So we just launched, within the last year, and we have a little over 200 members right now. And so we're growing like the steady, 20-mile march of just slow and steady growth. We don't want, bogus members, and we want good people. And so I think that's really the way to go, because everyone who joins knows what we're about, and they believe in what we're doing, or they're receiving our services. And so, I don't expect a whole lot of drama, and our staff is moderating all of it. And so, we have community guidelines and are very clear on that, and so it's like, if you want to like start drama, you'll get kicked out,
No, I mean, and I can imagine that there's an element of, there are a lot of emotions flying around for the families who are in the situations that these families are in.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that there's probably, that them coming to you, there's an element, there's probably a strong element of gratitude for somebody being willing to do this free of charge.
Yeah.
And I think that there's probably something very powerful for the donors being able to see what their money is doing. Have you heard anything from donors about being able to see the impact that their donations are having?
So not yet. We haven't had a lot of families want to share their photos yet. Because no one has done it, no one wants to be the first. So it's that piece
most
that
are waiting
I
for
know.
most people.
And so that's what we're up against right now, is just someone breaking that ice. And then I think too, because, and so we're working on it. One, okay, so this is like a interesting customer experience, experiment, because we're like, okay, why is no one posting? Right? Is it because they're uncomfortable sharing their story? Is it because this is very vulnerable? Is it because we haven't given them a good template to share? Like, do we need to have better communication? And so that's like what we're sorting through right now, is like, how can we love them better in sharing their story so that they feel confident and safe?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is awesome, because what I've seen just, in listening to you talk about, the organization today and how you started the organization, is that your premise of starting from a position of trying to love people better has, it by default, put you in a position to care about the experience that they're having.
Yes.
And it guides you.
Yes.
into trying to take care of everybody involved, donors, families, and photographers. It's guided you into that, and that's really, I think, it's really at the heart of it. My whole slogan is outserve the competition, right? The idea is to have the mentality that you are serving, and in order to serve somebody well, there has to be an element, unless you can just do it from a completely cold heart and do it with excellence from a cold heart. I think it takes a special person to do that. But there has to be an element of love there in order to be able to serve somebody with excellence.
Yes.
And to do that consistently. And I love that your programming, your decision to center that has by default guided you into being hyper focused on the things that make for great customer experiences.
Yeah. So like, even with our donors, right? It's like, how many times have you given to a nonprofit and just felt like an ATM?
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like I've given to nonprofits and not even been thanked before, which is crazy, right? Because like we exist because of donors.
Right.
Like we exist because people are willing to open up their wallets and give generously.
Yeah.
So Rachel Muir is actually a huge fundraising person who has helped educate me in better CX practices for fundraising.
Wow.
Because like I said earlier, and I don't know if we said this on the podcast, but I did not have any nonprofit experience when I started Love Not Lost. It was just like, I'll figure it out. Anything's figure outable. So I forget who said that, but yeah, it was like, oh yeah, I can figure this out. I've always figured stuff out. I'll be fine.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's like, it's great. Sometimes that confidence goes into like, oh God, what did I do? Or you're like, maybe I bit off more than I could chew. Dang. The nonprofit was one of them. I was like, oh, okay, I'm wearing like I'm doing 10 full-time jobs, like, because I had my own business before and I had figured out how to make it successful, and like that was fun and it was part of like the puzzle, right? And then like once I figured it out, it was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of bored now, like I could do this, but it's the same hustle and grind. Like,
okay, so this fascinates me because I was thinking to myself as I was hearing you talk about this, and a lot of the systems and infrastructure and principles that you put in place.
Yep.
I was like, for this to be the first organization that she started, she's pretty good at this. She's pretty dang good at this.
Yeah.
How do you do this on your first go round? So this is not your first go round.
So this is my second go around.
Okay.
When Skylar died, I did not go back to the corporate world because I was like, HR can't handle me, and no one's going to know what to do with me, and I'm just not going to survive. They'll be like, pack your bags, just take it home. So I was like, I'll just spare everyone and not go back to the corporate world. This is not welcoming to grief. So I was like, all right, I'll start my own thing. I need something to get me out of bed, right? Yeah. Like, my dog only gets me so far. So I was like, all right, here we go. And so I started my own portrait and wedding photography business. And that's how I was able to do the portraits on the side, because I was doing portraits and weddings as a for-profit, as a business. And then anytime I heard of someone facing a terminal diagnosis, that would be my volunteer session. I'm also a giant nerd, like really badly. So like
Same
in high
here.
school, I went to Camp Biotech, like thought I was going to be a doctor.
Oh snap.
Yeah,
Okay.
like legit nerd.
Okay.
Love science, love figuring things out, love researching and all of that. So in college, calculus kicked my butt. And then 2, I learned that to be a doctor, even if you didn't want to do surgery, or like even if you just want to look at x-rays, you still had to cut on dead people. And I was like, that's a deal breaker. I was like, even if I'm going to be in a lab all day, they're like, yes, you still have to cut on dead people. I was like, okay. So because I was like, pre-med's done. Okay. Thankfully I found out my freshman year, else I would have been real sad. And so I was like, I can't even handle a frog, right? Like the empathy side, I'm like, oh, this poor person, I'm like, I can't handle it. So I was like, all right, calculus kicked my butt. I literally opened up the book of majors and looked at what didn't require calculus.
I would have done the same thing.
And was like, okay, art, I don't think I'm that good at art. History bores me to death. I was like, journalism, graphic communications, English. Like, I loved literature. I loved reading. And so I was like, we'll go graphic communications. Like, I have an artsy side. I have a creative side. Like, in the major, you learn, like, science of, inks and papers and, that. So I was like, okay, there's a little science.
That was my major, graphic design. So,
oh, fun. Yeah. So, I went to Clemson for that. And then I ended up doing a minor in business administration because there was, like, 3 more classes. So I was like, well, why not? Yeah. Again, I'm like, I'm a nerd. Just sign me up. So I was like, cool, got that. And it gave me just enough confidence to start my own thing before realizing, like, oh, God, I, again, don't know what I'm doing. So, so I didn't know that people didn't do this, but I was like, okay, so I'm starting a business. I need to do my 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan. I need to do my SWOT analysis. I need to do, like, all the things. Like, I did all the things because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And so I was like, oh, like, I was talking to other people, and they're like, you did what? And I was like, oh, I thought that was normal. Like,
yeah, I didn't do any of those things.
Yeah, but I made a lot of mistakes in my original portrait session business, but I learned quickly. And so it was like, okay, this is the way to selling prints or product. This is the way to marketing. This is the way to storytelling. This is the way to position yourself. This is, how to take care of your client, create, like, if you create a luxury experience, you can charge more for that, right? Yeah. So I was like, cool. So some of those translated to the nonprofit world, some of them didn't. And so I'm very grateful to make mistakes for Shutter Suite Photography, which is the name of my business. And so, Shutter Suite is no more, but Love Not Lost kind of benefited from those initial trial and errors. And
Wow. That makes it make sense. Mm-hmm. That makes it make sense. Cause I was just like, wow, maybe I just need to quit because she came in and did this thing and is all organized and knows what she's doing.
No, I also have ADHD, so I am not organized.
Same here.
Yeah.
I also have ADHD.
Yeah. So I was like, I recently discovered that. My husband was like, that makes so much more sense. And I was like, thank you.
My wife had the same reaction when we found out. She was like, you make a whole lot more sense now.
It's so helpful.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Yeah. I will definitely admit that.
Yeah.
That is so fascinating. So I want to make sure that people leave with, just some nuggets of wisdom from you as a closing thought.
Yep.
If you can, I'd love for you to speak to business leaders.
Yeah.
On how to use loving your customers and loving your employees as the guidance into doing all the right things.
Yeah.
If
so
you don't mind. I
heard a really interesting statistic that I didn't share today because we were short on time. So I was like trying to hurry because, I knew Nate wanted to cut me short. I was like, all right. But there is a research team that said in the next 5 years, 75% of customer support calls will be because of loneliness.
Wow.
So,
you know what's crazy?
Yeah.
My wife used to be a news producer. And she worked the weekend shift. It was skeleton crew, so she had to pick up the phones herself.
Yep.
And there were literally people who called the news station just because they were lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get worse. And so what's really cool, knowing that, companies can easily have the upper hand. So there is a grocery store in Europe who just recently started a slow checkout lane. So they literally put people in the slow checkout lane who are extroverts or really just good listeners and are willing to let people just talk to them. And so like little old ladies or lonely widows or whoever can come up to the counter, check out with their groceries or whatever they're buying, a piece of gum, and just talk to the cashier rep. And everyone in that line knows that it's a slow checkout lane, so they're not in a rush. They just want to talk, and so they'll listen to the person in front of them and maybe start a 3-way conversation or, Right? Like, mind blown moment. And so I was like, yes, like that is a CX brilliant win, because not only do your customers feel loved and cared for, but your cashiers, a cashier, right, lowly position in our society, gets so much meaning and purpose.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh my gosh. I got a story to tell you in a second. But
So like that's one small way that grocery store was like, I see the need and we're going to meet it and add value across the board. And those people are going to go back to that grocery store every time. They're never going to go to another competitor.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I want to drive into, really like the mindset of leaders is you have a choice in what's driving your decision making. And if it's not love, you're losing.
Y'all heard that.
And it's so interesting to me that love has been distanced from the workplace, right? You've heard like, leave your emotions at home, don't bring drama into the workplace, work isn't the place for love or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we are human beings.
Right.
And we are in this life having a human experience. And so it's like, yes, we're spiritual beings too, but for this, we're human beings having this human experience at work. And the crazy thing is in order to be human, and in order for the companies to get what they want from humans, they're requiring that we have creativity and innovation and vulnerability and all of these things. But they're like, oh, but you can't feel things at work. And we're not going to talk about love, and we're not going to care for people because it's work, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have this personal life that you do that in. So separate yourself. And you're like, oh, I'm not two people. So right. Which one you want?
Right.
Right?
That's right.
And so what we tell leaders is you have to learn how to bring love into your workplace. And if it's not already there, then it's time to bring in a team to help you bring it in and transform your culture. Because one, there are people in your workplace who are hurting at all times. And just because you don't see it or because you don't know it doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah.
That pain and that suffering that your employees are feeling is costing you. So their emotional turmoil is causing them to lose productivity, mm-hmm. to make mistakes, to not be efficient, to lose sleep, whatever it is. And so it's really in a company's best interest to make sure their employees are as healthy as possible, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything, physically. And so that's the other piece is like when you create cultures of caring, you also create that loyalty where people are like, you know what? This company actually cares about me. Yeah. What a concept, because that doesn't happen. And it's like, why doesn't this happen?
Right.
And so when a company is choosing love instead of like scarcity or fear, especially with policies, right? Like leave policy, personal time off policy, mm-hmm. Maternity, grief, miscarriage policies. Like so many people make those policies with fear. Like you can only get 3 days off of grief, bereavement leave, because you might abuse it if we give you a week. Right. Or if we give you a month, oh my God,
Right.
You'll take a month vacation. Like if you lose someone, let me tell you, it's not a vacation, right?
Right.
So, and like, do you want a grieving, depressed person in the office? No, send them home, let them rest, let them heal, let them cry it out, Yeah. So anyway, I digress. I'm a soapbox. Policies are a whole nother thing. But the point is, so many things are made with fear because they're like, oh, but what if someone abuses it? What if? And it's like, your employees feel when they're not trusted. and when you're being fearful.
Yeah.
And no one wants to follow that leader.
That's right.
So choose love, take care of your people, and they'll take care of you.
That is awesome. That is amazing. Ashley, it has been awesome having you on the show. I think that what you put out right there is you don't have to know all of the ins and outs. You don't have to know the terminology. If you let actually caring about people, doing right by people, loving people, be the guide, you will wind up in the right spot. You'll wind up doing the right thing. And that takes courage, because
it does.
There are a lot of best practices out there that aren't necessarily modeled after that.
Yeah.
And so, for the business leaders out there, it's going to take some courage to do that. You're going to have to buck trends a little bit.
Shake things up.
But I love the fact that you're doing that. I love what you're doing at Love Not Lost, and so glad that you were willing to come sit down with me and talk to me about what you're doing.
And if there are leaders out there who are wanting help, this is something, we have a corporate care program to really bring grief and empathy training to leaders in the workplace. So if you have team members who are going through crisis, or that's what we're here for, is to really facilitate that. And then whatever we can't support you with, we have partners who can. So that's awesome. Something that we offer. If any leaders are out there listening, we also have tools on our website. So lovenotlost.org is the place where people can find us. And you can find me on LinkedIn too. I'd love to connect. Ashley Nicole Jones. It's a common name, so I threw my middle name in there. If you still can't find me, you can just search for Love Not Lost. So.
Awesome. I was getting ready to ask you that, so that's great.
Yep.
Definitely connect with Ashley, and thanks everybody for tuning in. See you next time. Folks, what a great conversation. I am so glad that Ashley is out there doing what she's doing, that the folks who donate their time and their talents to this effort are doing what they're doing, and that so many people are out there benefiting from that and having lifelong memories. As you saw, the reason that we had Ashley on the show is because the way that she has birthed and runs this organization absolutely expresses the pillars and the forces of CX that you hear me talk about all the time, from purpose to customer insight to having an excellent service and product, to empowering her people to do what's right for people in the moment, and for growing and moving through the pains that she's had to have operational excellence, to increase the level of experience over time. Ashley's a perfect example of how to run an organization that takes care of people and winds up growing as a result. So folks, make sure that you follow her on LinkedIn. Make sure that you check them out. Love Not Lost. You can find them online. And if you like what you heard here, you want to hear more stuff like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Devin Smith, and you can find me on Twitter at Devin W. Smith. Folks, keep out-serving your competition on your relentless pursuit to become an experienced leader. Catch you in the next one.